So Avatar Frontiers of Pandora seems like a very interesting game. A lot of people, myself included, can't really tell whether it's going to be amazing or whether it's going to be a pretty stock standard game. But either way, there are plenty of interesting mechanics they have implemented to try and sort of differentiate the game from other Ubisoft IPs. And because of that, today I wanted to go through 7 interesting mechanics in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, the first one is to do with the crafting in the game, and this is more specifically to do with the harvesting parts to get for the crafting, because they have done this in a very, very interesting way. Now, in previous games, for example, Far Cry, that's one that a lot of people compare this game to. You generally just have to go and hunt different animals or find different plants throughout the world, and you pretty much just harvest them, and then you can use those for crafting. Now, the same sort of thing is happening in this game as well. However, they have put, I guess, an extra layer of difficulty in there when it comes to harvesting, because instead of simply just going up to a plant and taking that plant, there is actually a new mechanic in there that is essentially just an extra step we have to take, and it can give pretty much enhanced bonuses for that specific fruit or plant. What you need to do when you are harvesting different fruits throughout the game, as you can see by this indicator, you need to pretty much move the left stick to where that little triangle piece is. That will be the correct direction to actually pull the fruit out. Once you're in that location, you then need to use the right trigger to essentially pull the fruit out. Now, if you don't do this and you just pull it out normally, you will still get the fruit and you can still use that for crafting. However, if you do it properly, it will give you the fruit or the plant in a pristine condition, meaning that when you use that for crafting or for making foods, for example, it'll essentially just be better than if you do it the fastest way possible, if that makes sense. Now, on top of that, there is also certain times of day when it comes to different types of fruits or plants that are, I guess, better for getting that type of fruit. So for example, some of them you will need to actually pull them out at night. And if you do it during the day, you'll still get that fruit, like I said, but it just won't be in perfect condition and it won't be as useful when it comes to crafting. So it is a very interesting take on, I guess, harvesting and looting, if you will. I've never really seen that many games do it this way before. It means that you're going to actually have to pay attention to what time of day and how you are actually harvesting these fruits. And I guess it adds a pretty cool layer to it, that there is a bit more, I guess, thought that goes into it rather than just walking around to different plants and pressing a button in order to harvest them. Now, another interesting mechanic is something that I did not know until just a few weeks ago. This game is actually entirely playable in co-op. Now, that is going to be an awesome mechanic for any of you who want to play this with a friend. There are so many games out there that we all say, oh, imagine playing this with one of your friends, especially when it comes to those like open world single player games. So many of them would be perfect to play with your friend or your brother or something. And in this game, you are going to be able to do that. Now, on top of that, it will also save the game at the exact same point for both players. So you can play from the very start to the very end, and both people will get to experience the exact same game, because there are certain games out there where, let's just say we were playing co-op, you might not be online and I might jump on and just continue playing the game for a bit. And then the next time you get on, maybe you're not a high enough level. I remember that happening with Borderlands back in the day, and it can kind of throw things out of whack. So this is a really good thing for any of you who are looking to play the game in co-op. You can play the game from the very beginning to the very end and experience the exact same thing as your friend who's playing alongside you. Now, the next one is, I guess, a little bit more minor when it comes to the gameplay, but it definitely helps a lot when it comes to immersion, and this is to do with the audio design. Now, in most games, when it comes to the ambient sound, that being, for example, the sound of the jungle in this case, or if you're playing a game like Spider-Man, for example, just the sound of the city, the sound of cars going past and people talking in the city and stuff like that. In most games, that is essentially looped, so they obviously have a certain amount of commentary, I guess you would say, and then at certain points they need to loop that back because they don't have unlimited audio to draw from. Now, in this game, they pretty much do have unlimited audio to draw from, because apparently they have done a crazy amount of audio work to where there is almost no audio looping in this game. So that means that if you go to a certain part of the forest, for example, if you were to stand there for an hour and just listen to the plants and the birds and stuff like that, the developers are saying you will pretty much never hear the same thing on repeat. It is all entirely different sounds. And although that is a very small thing at the end of the day, it just goes to show the, I guess, detail and the depth they have gone to make this game as immersive as possible. And it's something I've never really seen a game do before, so it shows they are definitely putting in a lot of effort when it comes to the immersion in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, another interesting mechanic is to do with the flying mechanics in this game. Now, obviously we can fly an Ikran, which is one of those big, like, bird-like creatures. However, it isn't actually straightforward, as in you don't just get on and fly and then you can get off where you land. You can actually jump off in midair You can free fall as your Navi and essentially continue fighting. You can shoot your bow and arrow at a helicopter while you're free falling. And then in the midst of that battle, if you're getting too low, for example, you can actually call your Ikran back and land on the mid-air and continue that combat while flying around on your Ikran, and you can essentially just rinse and repeat that, which is definitely a very interesting touch. I haven't seen that many games out there do that, simply because in most games that doesn't really make sense. But in this game, seeing as we are playing as Navi and we obviously have our Ikran who is pretty much going to follow us everywhere, it actually makes a lot of sense. And we even see them doing that in the movies as well. So that is going to make the flying mechanics of this game a lot deeper than most games. And I'm very interested to see how deep the combat can go when it comes to flying around and pretty much free falling while trying to shoot enemies out of a helicopter. That's going to be so much fun, and I cannot wait to see it in action. Now, something else I thought was pretty interesting is that there is a food system in this game that is, in a way, similar to Minecraft. Now, you need to keep both your energy level and your Ikran's energy level high, and this will essentially allow you to regenerate health when you're taking damage, for example. But if you are low on energy, and for example, you may not have any food in your inventory, then you actually won't recover health quickly at all. And as far as I'm aware, if your energy is essentially completely out, then you can take damage and you will not recover health until you actually eat some sort of food, or if there are certain bandages and potions, for example, in the game that allow you to heal, those are going to be the only ways to heal up. So I'm sure you guys have all played Minecraft. You know that you have to eat to pretty much keep your energy high. And once your energy is low, you will start just essentially taking damage for no apparent reason. And it seems that it's going to be pretty similar in this game, maybe not to the point where we're taking damage simply for being out of energy, but we definitely will not be able to regenerate health, and that is going to be very difficult when it comes to being in the middle of combat. Now, in this game, we can also use something called our Navi Sensors. Now, this is pretty much the same as Eagle Vision in Assassin's Creed, where we can essentially see through walls and see all the stuff that we need to know. But in this game, it actually has two different modes. There is the guided mode that shows you pretty much what you need to know in terms of markers. So it'll show where you need to be on the map. It'll show your current objective, and it will in some cases even show certain plants, for example, that you need to harvest. And this is essentially the base mode of that Navi Sense. Now, there is also then exploration mode, and this is essentially a hardcore mode that will not show locations and markers and stuff like that. The only thing that I believe this shows is being able to see enemies through walls and stuff like that, but it will not help when it comes to navigating and knowing where you need to be. So that is a bit more, I guess, immersive if you just want to be able to find everything on your own. Then the exploration mode is there, and that is going to be very interesting to see how much harder that makes the game. Now, lastly, another interesting mechanic that I've found throughout the game is that there is hardcore fortresses, and these essentially spawn towards the end of the game. Now, the game does have the, I guess, standard bandit camps throughout the world. I'm sure you guys are used to these in most of these open world games. For example, Far Cry, it's got similar things to this. They're normal enough and there's nothing special about those, but once you are at level 20 and you've beaten the main story, these actually respawn as what are called hardcore fortresses. They're going to be much harder to beat, and it will help a lot with like farming resources or getting XP if you need it. And it's also going to add a lot of replayability without the game having a new game plus. So once you've pretty much finished the game, there's then another bunch of these fortresses that will spawn on the planet. And it's up to you to go around and take out these, I guess, even more reinforced fortresses. So anyway, guys, those are 7 very interesting mechanics in Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Like I said, I'm not too sure whether this game is going to be amazing or whether it's going to be pretty stock standard. I can't really tell, but some of these are definitely very interesting, and I'm very keen to see how they go. I'm keen to hear all your thoughts on them as well, so be sure to leave them down in the comment section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.